UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Welcome to franchise fatigue. Welcome to franchise fatigue. My friend Zach, he joins us too. He's got trivia for you.
Oh, hey guys. How's it going?
Thanks for killing my intro.
That would have been more.
You're not my friend.
That would have been a more appropriate song intro for the first movie, Brandon, but it's much appreciated. So,
hey, Robert Goulet sings it in this one.
Is that Robert Goulet who does the, wow, okay. See, that's some trivia I didn't even know.
Oh, man. We got a part-time guy here doing all the trivia, so. But we also have a very special guest joining us today for this very special episode of Franchise Fatigue. Patrick Devlin, my friend, my co-host, my thorn in my side from Warp 5 over on Trek FM. How are you doing, Patrick?
I am good. The one I'm most proud of is that I'm a thorn in your side.
Yes, you are.
Just so you know. But I'm doing great, and thank you for having me on for this.
Well, we've got a good discussion for you tonight. We're going to be continuing on with our Toy Story watch-along as we lead up to the new movie. And you know what? I got to say I'm really excited about.
What's that?
Do you know what I'm excited about, Zach?
What's that, Brandon?
Terminator Dark Fate. I saw the trailer for it. Looks good.
It's terrible. It's so bad. It looks like Terminator Genesis 2. Terminator Genesis is not only the worst Terminator movie, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And this looks like a sequel to that. And where's John Connor? Yes. And it's just, it's going to be fun when we get to the Terminator franchise here on Franchise Fatigue. I'll tell you that much.
And that's coming in 2 franchises. We got Jaws coming up next, and then we've got Terminator after that. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm stoked. I thought the trailer was great, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Toy Story 2. Zach, take it away with your barrel of monkeys of trivia.
Yes, let's do that. So this was the first movie, Toy Story 2, that Tom Hanks and Tim Allen had returned to characters for. This is the first sequel that either of them had done. So I thought that was a interesting bit of trivia as actors. Toy Story 2 is also the third Disney movie to win Golden Globe for Best Picture. The other two were Beauty and the Beast in 1991 and The Lion King in 1994. And not only was this the first ever sequel for Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, but it was Pixar's first ever sequel and their only sequel up until Toy Story 3. So this one has been sequelized, the Toy Story franchise. The Cars franchise went on to be sequelized. Also, Monsters, Inc. So they went from a strict policy of no sequels to The Incredibles now as well. So they have multiple franchises that from the Pixar animated movies. So, say what you will about that. I think it's this being franchise fatigue. We're happy that they're sequels. So those are more potential franchises for us to cover in the future. So a lot of the ideas here that we see in Toy Story 2, they were ideas that were considered for the original Toy Story, but they didn't appear there. They appeared in this film. The whole Buzz Lightyear video game kind of Zool stuff, that mythology. Zool, is it Zool? Is it Zool? Emperor Zool? Is that Ghostbusters?
Zorg.
There is no Zorg, only Zool. Excuse me. So Zorg.
Quit crossing the streams.
I know, right? Don't cross the streams, right? Very good, very good. Woody's nightmare about Andy not wanting to play with him anymore, with like the cards and all that. That was an idea from the first film. You can see how that would fit in. And then also the idea of the yard sale was an idea they had for the first film. They incorporated it into this one as well. So the Toy Story came out in 95. Toy Story 2 came out in 99. And they had a real tight schedule to turn this thing around. So editors of the film would work 36 to 48-hour shifts. And sometimes the editors would burst into tears purely from exhaustion. So another fact about the editors is apparently a lot of them suffered from carpal tunnel syndrome and other repetitive strain injuries due to their continued long shifts working at the computer. So a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into this movie. And it almost had a catastrophic failure because when they were working on the film, someone entered the code RM**, a code which, when you enter it into their computer system there, deleted everything on the computer as quickly as possible. I don't know if this is like a Pixar thing or just a computer thing. I'm certainly never going to enter those 3 characters into my computers. But because of this, they lost 90% of the film. And they tried to get backup animation, but it wasn't working. So, fortunately, though, supervising technical director Galen Sussman had recently had a child. So she had a copy of the movie at home with her so she could work from home. So, what they did was they went to her house, they wrapped up that copy in blankets, and drove it back to the studio, and then duplicated it, and were able to rescue the film. I mean, that is crazy. They almost lost 90% of this film. So I just because somebody entered the wrong thing into a computer. I mean, that blows my mind, guys. I mean, I've heard about some catastrophes before, but that might be the biggest near catastrophe I've heard about in a movie.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
So who lost their job right around that time? Because that's who did it.
That somebody got to have been fired about that, because that is inexcusable, I think. So, now, we
also, whoever programmed their computers should lose their job for letting 3 characters delete a computer system.
Like, I know the asterisk, you usually have to put shift or something, but still, as you said, Patrick, if there any 3 characters can delete your work in a matter of seconds, then you have a serious problem with your system. I 100% agree with you. So, as we talked about last time in our podcast, Little Bo Peep's character was originally supposed to be a Barbie, but Mattel refused to license them the character for the movie. But, of course, Toy Story was a huge hit, and they wanted a part of it because it boosted sales for characters like Mr. Potato Head and other characters that were featured in the movie. So Mattel was like, we need to get in on this with Barbie. So they created a tour guide Barbie as a character in the film, and Mattel released them as released tour guide Barbie as an exclusive doll tie-in with the film. So that's why we see so much tour guide Barbie. There's also some in-jokes about Disney World and Disneyland in there when tour guide Barbie repeats the phrase about staying in your seats in Spanish and that kind of thing. It's a reference to obviously the kind of when the thing you hear at Disney World when you're in the queue and you hear the different languages and things like that. So there's a big disagreement.
I'm a married spud.
Yes. Now, there was a big disagreement between John Lasseter and Disney chairman Michael Eisner at the time because they had a 5-picture deal between Pixar and Disney. And they had Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles. And they wanted a Toy Story 2, but it wasn't going to count in these 5. And they initially had decided we're going to do direct-to-DVD, and Lasseter wasn't going to be involved. And there's a lot of back and forth about this. Eisner didn't want to extend the contract, and basically they wanted to do a low budget direct to DVD sequel, as a lot of Disney sequels are. But that was ultimately scrapped, and we got the one we wanted because executives they didn't like the direction of where that was going, and the original story to that direct to video sequel, the Woody's Roundup toys that Woody meets included Bullseye, who had a voice and could talk. And the prospector, who was not named Stinky Pete, and a Senora Cactus was a Mexican dancer doll. That toy became Jessie, and also the ending of the film featured a car chase with Woody, Buzz, and the rest of the toys. They stole Owl's car to escape, and Owl chased them in a Pizza Planet truck. So that was kind of the original ending for that direct-to-video, but...
I can see some remnants of that made it to the final cut.
Yeah, so there it's similar, but it's different enough. But ultimately, production was returned to Pixar, and John Lasseter and the animators, they reworked the story, and they gave it a lot of more heart and humor from what was in the original version. So now, Al the Toy Collector is partially based on Pixar animator and storyboard artist Matthew Lund's father, Mark, who is a toy store owner and collector. And so a group of animators shadowed him for several days to study his mannerisms and learn about toy collections. And they also took references from his toy shop, Jeffrey's Toys, located in San Francisco. So there was, an actual basis for this character, voiced by Wayne Knight, who I was happy to see at the height of his popularity in the 90s, right, guys? Emperor Zurg, not Zool, Zurg, he was voiced by story writer for the movie Andrew Stanton in this film, but Wayne Knight actually went on to voice him in the animated shows for Buzz Lightyear and spin-offs like that. Also, the Rock'em Sock'em Robots that we see in Al's office, they were voiced by John Lasseter, the director, and Lee Unkrich, the co-director. So that's a fun little voice cameo for them. Fun to see Rock'em Sock'em Robots. It's always fun to see toys like them, and then like toys that are invented for the movie itself. So now, obviously, a big plot of this part of the plot here is the Woody's Roundup toys, and I was thinking that it was a reference to Howdy Doody because they're on strings and stuff, but apparently the Sheriff Woody merchandise is a reference to the merchandising phenomenon of Davy Crockett from the 1950s. Obviously, that was a Disney show that was really big, and that's what they kind of based their Woody's Roundup kind of mythology and merchandise around. Also, during the scene when Woody's going around looking at all the toys, during the recording session, they showed Tom Hanks mock-ups of what they would look like, and he just kind of ad-libbed and had some spontaneous reactions to them all. And so they recorded those and then incorporated them into the final film, visually and audio-wise. And speaking of the Roundup characters, Martin Short was actually going to be the voice of Bullseye, but ultimately John Lasseter decided to make him a non-speaking character since he would be more appealing to audiences. That was the idea. Kind of like a more adorable puppy was kind of the idea there. And if the fixer who cleans Woody, if he looks familiar, he's Jerry from the Oscar-winning Pixar short Jerry's Game. So if you saw A Bug's Life in theaters, you probably remember the Pixar short with the old man playing chess with himself. That is him, and the look of him is based off makeup artist Stuart Freeborn, who designed Yoda, among other characters, and who the appearance of Yoda was based around.
You mean Gerald's Game, like the Stephen King book?
No.
Oh.
Incorrect. So.
Oh, okay.
The song "When She Loved Me," which is like the big, emotional piece of this film, Randy Newman had expressed some concern of whether or not it would, fly with young children, if they'd be able to sit through an emotional ballad that's over 3 minutes long in the middle of the film like that. But Tim Allen and Tom Hanks both admitted to crying the first time they saw it. So it definitely worked for everyone as the emotional heart. And
what does Randy Newman know about emotions?
Maybe not. Now, and this is a theory we can talk about in our discussion, but there is a theory that Andy's mom is Emily, Jesse's original owner, because the red cowboy hat that Andy wears is very similar to the one that Emily wears. And also, if you do the timeline of the 60s and the 70s, she would be the right age to be Andy's mom. But that is an unconfirmed theory. We can talk about that later if y'all want.
Actually, there's been new revelations on that.
New revelations. Okay, good.
We'll get into it.
Put a pin in that then for sure. Thanks, Patrick.
Yes.
And then we had a Mrs. Potato Head. Finally, she was voiced by Estelle Harris, who played George's mom on Seinfeld. And that makes we have two new Seinfeld guest stars because Wayne Knight played Al in the film, and he was, of course, Newman on Seinfeld, as we said. And a couple other movie references here. When before they cross the street to Al's Toy Barn, Sleeky, he says, "I may not be a smart dog, but I know what roadkill is." And that's a reference to, I might not be a smart man, but I know what love is. From Forrest Gump, of course, played by Tom Hanks. And then one of my favorite references...
that is some obscure reference, because I never caught that reference at all.
I totally thought that, but I quote Forrest Gump all the time. It's one of my favorite movies. So I totally got that. And then also when Rex is following the Barbie car, and he's like, "Hey, what up for me, guys?" And you see in the rearview mirror, it's like objects are closer than they appear. Right? That is a direct lift from Jurassic Park, because you see the T-Rex there. And then finally, Brandon, this is a bit of trivia that I know you will really appreciate. There's an in-joke about how much more expensive things are in Canada. It's again in the same scene when they're in the car, and Rex has the How to Defeat Zurg book. And there's a few frames where you can see the bottom corner of the price tag. and it's shown as a US for $4.95 and $50 in Canada. So
That's about